The Halden Army, An Alien Dystopia by Keyla Damaer. The Halden Army Manderian Year, 2456. Draken entered the training grounds at the Command Training Center on the Tarala outpost with a heavy heart. The final exam to become an officer in the Halden Army loomed over the cadets, although no one knew when it would take place. But instead of being focused, he had all kinds of distractions. By night, his recurring nightmare with its inescapable flames plagued his sleep, and by day, the sight of Zamal tormented his loins. His mind told him only the exam mattered, but his body thought otherwise, craving her. While at 16 most of his companions, including Zamal, had reached their sexual maturity, he still hadn't. Not until now. Any other time, it wouldn't matter. Cadets and students all over the Manderian Halden were mating with each other when the time came. But right now, his sudden desire for her meant trouble. He had no time for growing up and giving in to his instincts. However, asking for a hormonal suppressant would only get him reprimanded. Sexual initiation was meant to be part of their training. It just came at the wrong time for him. Meal break arrived in a blur, between sparring sessions and digging fences. Draken took his place at the long table in the mess hall and blended his voice with those of all the Halden Military Academy's cadets. I, Draken Kosset, citizen of the Manderian Halden, do hereby take the oath of allegiance and solemnly vow to be a brave, disciplined and vigilant fighter. To guard strictly all military and Halden secrets, to obey without question all army regulations and orders of my superiors. I pledge to study the duties of a soldier conscientiously and to safeguard the Halden. I fully swear to protect the Halden obediently, skillfully and honorably, without sparing my blood and my very life, to achieve complete victory over the enemy. And, if through evil intent I break this solemn oath, then let the stern punishment of Manderian law fall upon me. Hundreds of voices spoke as one, stirring Draken's spirit every time he repeated the ritual, thrice a day before his meals, every day for the last 13 years. At the end of the litany, as they all sat down in unison, silence fell in the mess hall, broken only by the sound of cutlery on their plates. One by one, students whispered to each other until all the voices joined the buzz. Zamal sat in front of him, her golden facial scales gleamed with captivating shades under the artificial lights. Her auburn hair was plaited into a complicated twist and gave an attractive highlight to her pronounced eye ridges. The tight black uniform displayed the slick movement of her muscles. Draken's pulse quickened. Draken? Derin nudged his elbow. Derin and Zamal were the closest things he had to friends, but, in the last 2 days, they had both been getting under his scales. And now the turmoil inside his body disturbed him. Distracted by her sultry beauty, he spun around with a snarl. "What?" Zamal groaned. "You weren't paying attention." He turned his focus to the plate and grunted. "I'm eating." "I know when the final test will take place," Derin said. Draken laughed, but his eyes showed no sign of amusement. "So, when is it, according to your source?" he snapped, trying to get away from his worries and shut Derin up. "Whoa, now he wants to know," his friend replied, pursing his lips. "In 6 days, and it's gonna be tough." Draken leered at Zamal for a millisecond, then lowered his eyes to his plate. "We already knew it would be tough." The main course, a Bathai stew with amok sauce, tasted stale, but Draken was used to that. After all, field rations didn't taste any better. Draken finished the stew and attacked the dessert, thankful for the same bad flavor because it gave him something other than Zamal to think about. He kept his eyes on the plate. Perhaps, if he ignored her, the lust exploding in his loins would go away. "The Black Squad will examine us, I know that for sure," Derin said. Draken wanted to leave the rest of his meal, but he couldn't. As a cadet, they would punish him. Leaving uneaten food led to smaller and weaker bodies. Not to mention, it was rude in civilian culture where there was never enough food.